Wood, who's the head of the Department of Veterinary Medicine at Cambridge
Remember
University.
everything with
Professor,
an ACE2
welcome
receptor.
to the program.
Ferrets,
When they get it,
cats,
how do
dogs,
felines behave with COVID-19? Do they get it like humans?
Hamsters, gerbils.
Morning. Well, there are so few cases. I think it would be a mistake to generalise. This cat had mild symptoms of what we may usually refer to as cat flu. So it had a mild respiratory illness, some sneezing, and I think it was slightly off colour. The cat was sampled, and samples of swab were sent to the feline virology, the cat virology laboratory in Glasgow University, who found that it didn't have a normal cat flu. And then on retesting, which was then confirmed in a government laboratory in Surrey, they found that actually it had the COVID-19 virus.
Now, I'm interested, why did they test the cat at all? Because most people would not assume, if their cat sneezed, that it had coronavirus.
So the owners of the cat had recently been diagnosed with COVID-19, I understand.
Right,
so
fascinating. Now what do we learn from this about? I mean, obviously the first thought is my cat safe? I gather the answer is yes, largely. So Tiger's very pleased to hear that if he's listening at home. But the question of transmissibility, this surely tells us something about the way that it transmits. What do we learn from this business?
Well, this cat, as pretty much every other cat, including the tigers at the Bronx Zoo, were being looked after by people who had the disease themselves. So what we've seen with cats and an even smaller number of dogs is that animals can catch it from their owners. But what we've not seen for any pet animals is any reverse transmission from the cat or dog back to the owner.
That's mysterious. And any idea why? Does this tell us something about how the virus works?
Well, I think it probably tells us more or confirms what we know more about animal behaviour. So if you think about how your cat behaves, it will spend a lot of its time when it's not asleep grooming itself. And so if you've coughed or spluttered in the room, perhaps unknowingly somewhat over the top of the cat, then when the cat grooms itself, it may groom any respiratory excretion off its coat and swallow it. We tend not to behave like that, and we're much bigger than the cat. So not only is the cat more likely to catch it because of its behaviour, but just because of scale. We produce a lot more exhaled breath than a small cat will ever do.
That's fascinating. And just to recap, I mean, I'm not going to go home and disinfect my cat, but should he be? Should the cats be protected from this, or is it actually not that serious when they get it? Because of course this disease comes from animals, so the fear would be it would go back to animals. I'm fascinated that it goes back and then doesn't come to us.
Yeah, well, of course we are all different animals in different ways. So this is just an animal virus, and it just happens to spread particularly well in humans. The advice has been throughout this epidemic to maintain normal hygiene measures around your animals. So washing your hands before and after you are handling your pets. And I think particularly if you know that you have or suspect that you've got COVID-19 yourself, then taking reasonable precautions to try not to contaminate your cat just by again, hand washing is a critically important part of the whole thing, and not touching your face before that. So it's in many respects it's quite straightforward. We've had so few animals affected, though. I think that I would take reasonable measures if I had the disease myself to try and minimise contact between myself and our cats, even if I thought the risks were very low.
Fascinating. And if they do get it, apparently they haven't, although as Professor was saying there's not that many examples of it. They don't appear to get it too badly. James Wood, head of the Department of Veterinary Medicine at Cambridge University. Sincere thanks.
Pause when you wash your hands. I think that is a sensible way to go.
Yeah, maybe with a
little mal.
A little dab of gel, exactly.
Little dab of gel can't hurt, can it? Or maybe it can. Now, here's a somewhat unsavoury question. Have you ever wondered why armpits smell? They just do, and it's unpleasant. Well, apparently it's no longer one of life's great mysteries. As scientists at the University of York here in the UK have found the reason humans have body odour. Let's talk to one of those scientists now, Dr. Michelle Rudden. joint first author of the study. Welcome to Newsday.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
One of life's, well, it's great to have you. One of life's great mysteries solved. So why do armpits smell?
Well, I think we knew that bacteria were the main cause of like body odor, but like what our research has just shown, that's just been published yesterday, is that we've kind of discovered a unique enzyme that's found within a particular group of bacteria in your underarm that is responsible for the body odor.
Okay, what is it?
What is the enzyme? It's
what's the enzyme?
Yeah, it's this unique PLP enzyme that is only found in this small group of bacteria that can break down the odorless precursors that you secrete from your sweat. And it's kind of a common enough enzyme found in bacteria, but what we have kind of shown is that it's kind of evolved this specificity towards the precursors for body odor in your sweat, and that it just sort of cleaves it and releases the volatile, the smelly part of body odor that we kind of know it as it is. But for the bacteria, it's kind of useful because they can break these molecules down and get a little bit of food from it.
Okay, and it's pretty old, isn't it? It's older than the evolution of the modern human. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So what we also did was look to see, is body odor a modern human problem, is what we originally kind of thought. But what we kind of did was sort of date the bacteria. We could sort of get like a molecular clock and we could find out how old they are. And from our research, we think that it's roughly about 60 million years old, the bacteria is that live in your underarm. So that kind of tells us that maybe they're present long before modern humans have arrived. So it could have potentially had a more functional role than maybe some earlier primates or ancestral primates, I think.
And is this to kind of ward off your enemies, that kind of thing, with a stick?
Yeah, I mean, yes, because, in modern humans, we don't have a function, like you have no physiological role for body odor. But we kind of think that maybe it's an evolutionary hangover of a time where it could have been more functional. We don't exactly know why, but yes, like one of the theories is that it could have worn off your predators. Maybe we were that smelly that we just weren't appetizing, or, could it have a role in societal communication among non-verbal primates? We're not entirely sure.
So anxiety produces this. Is that the thinking behind it, going back all those centuries?
Yeah, well, it's certainly kind of what we kind of know about how body odor is produced now, because it's produced by a specialized type of sweat gland, and that is controlled by your central nervous system, and we think it's hormone regulated. We don't know for sure, but, I know for sure that if I get nervous, I tend to produce more body odor rather than sweat and stuff like that. So, yeah, we think it could be anxiety or hormone linked.
Oh, that is interesting. Could this help with deodorant production in the future, this discovery?
Yes, absolutely, because now that we've discovered the enzyme, so we know exactly how the bacteria produce body inside it, and we've solved the structure of that. So now we have like a molecular blueprint to try and
get it on the shelves. Thank you
the
so much for that insight. Why armpits smell, Dr. Michelle Rodden. Thanks.
Distribution of the
A pandemic puppy, they're being called, thinking that it was a great opportunity to get a family dog. But animal charities here in the UK are warning that as we gradually get back to work and face the reality of dog ownership, a bit more complicated when you're out of the house for longer, it requires hard work and time. Many of these pets could be abandoned, and some may have to be put down as animal shelters won't be able to cope with taking care of them all. Let's talk to Danielle Beck, a clinical animal behaviourist, to find out more. So let's start with this upswing in dog ownership, Danielle. How great has that swing been?
Oh my gosh, it's been huge. I found myself more inundated and busy than I have ever been. I know a few of the local classes in my area and globally from a few of my colleagues internationally that they're having to put on extra classes just to accommodate all the new puppies that people are getting during lockdown.
Yeah, but the downside of that will be, the fear is that people will realise, and people are going back to work now, that this is a costly exercise, because if you're not looking after the dog, somebody else has to. So what are you hearing?
Oh, absolutely. One of the biggest problems that we're finding is dogs that have separation-related problems, not just the young puppies, but existing dogs that are so used to having their owners at home all the time, being a social species. They're now suddenly one day out of the house 6 to 8 hours a day, and the dogs are really struggling to cope with that, and which can lead to a lot of distress for the animal. It can lead to a lot of costly damage for the owner. And these are things that people need to be prepared for, and they should have been working throughout during lockdown to kind of give that space time to the dog so they can learn how to cope when you're not around.
Yeah, so that's a serious issue, as is the issue of people buying dogs and then just abandoning them or taking them back to shelters saying, you know, I had this dog during lockdown, but I can't cope with it now. I mean, are you concerned that there may be a rise in euthanizing dogs?
Oh, absolutely, I am. I'm already seeing an increase in behaviour problems, and this is usually the one that tends to result in, unfortunately, euthanasia because the dogs don't get everything that they need. People are going back to work, they're developing problems that people just can't deal with, and then eventually the people are having to feel the need to then give up their dogs. And if the rescue centres can't cope, if they're overwhelmed, then euthanasia is often, unfortunate, the decision that has to be made. And so often it is avoidable if people actually thought about dogs being more of a lifelong, purchase. They're not just a toy that you can have during lockdown. They are these beings that have a lot of different social needs, and we need to make sure that people are accommodating for that.
It's like having a child, isn't it? We have a dog, and it doesn't need as much attention as the children, but I mean, it's up there, that you have to factor it into your day-to-day, pattern of living, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, being a parent and having dogs and puppies myself, when you get a puppy, it's essentially like having a newborn. You're up throughout the night with toileting. You've got to teach them how to look after things, and you're with them throughout the rest of their lives, and they are dependent on you for the next 10 to 15 years, and that's a huge commitment for someone to make on a whim.
It's a long time. It's a long time. I'm currently trying to train mine to use the coffee machine as I'm broadcasting from my own at home. But anyway, no joy so far. Let's talk about COVID-19. We were talking about cats. A cat in the UK has contracted the virus. Dogs, have there been any examples of it? And what are the risks with COVID-19 and dogs?
As far as we're aware, dogs haven't got it. I think the only risk would be they are potentially a vector for it. So similar to any other surface in your house, if someone that has COVID-19 comes into contact and they touch the animal, there is always a very small risk that it will be contaminated on the fur. But grooming, bathing, washing, and just the washing your hands is the best way to deal with it. So it's not something that I feel anyone should particularly panic about.
Well, we don't know for a fact whether they can carry it on their fur at this moment.
No, we don't know for a fact. It's something that is speculated. It's just bear it in mind and be mindful of it, but don't worry about it.
Keep them clean and you clean. Daniel, thank you for joining us. Daniel Beck, they're clinical animal behaviourist.
Cats, dogs, Brazil, everywhere. We've been doing all sorts of angles on the virus. There is one overarching one that interests us all, whether you're a cat or a dog lover or not, or even Brazilian, and that's the idea of a vaccine. Let's just remind you of the stats. 16 million confirmed cases of COVID-19, 650,000 deaths. Nothing's going to change unless we get a vaccine. Now, we get very excited when there's news of vaccine programs and progress and so on, but you're about to get a sobering reminder. Most medical products that go into trials don't work, and only about 10% of them get approval. And even if we did get a vaccine, how much profit would you be happy with the pharmaceutical companies making, and who would actually get a vaccine? Particularly the poorer of the world. These are big issues that we've been talking about with Dr. Peter Lurie, who wants to draw attention to them. He's president of America's Center for Science in the Public Interest.
The government has agreed to purchase a vaccine if it turns out to be effective. And the idea is that, should that be the case, the American government would get the initial first crack at the vaccine, quite possibly in a way that leaves very little for anybody else. The advantage, as it were, of what the Americans are doing, or if some other more global buyer were to be identified, is that it assures the companies that there will be a market at the end of the day. And that's one way of creating an incentive for vaccine development by what's called a pull mechanism. So that part of it is fine as far as it goes. The problem is the distribution of the product once it's in the hands of whomever the purchaser is. The companies are going to sell to whoever pays the most.
When it comes to the pharmaceutical companies, they decide that vaccine delivery should be put first rather than profit. Some companies have been saying that. Do you know if any of that would stop at a particular price and not go any higher?
So there was a hearing before the U.S. Congress just in the last week in which this matter arose. A couple of the companies were willing to say that they would not sell the vaccine for more than cost. And some of the other vaccine companies were not willing to do that. But even then, the question is, presuming that we are going to need to be vaccinated against this virus for years to come, that still leaves open opportunity for the companies to profiteer once the immediate crisis is behind us.
Right, so the companies are receiving money for research without any reassurance that the vaccine's going to work. So there have been talks of vaccines being created by November, early next year, whenever. When do you think we might have one?
Right, so we've been discussing the money that they might get from the American government if the vaccine is effective. Meantime, a number of these companies are taking money just for the purposes of conducting the research. So they're doing rather well in that respect as well. Now, the problem is that despite the fact that they are taking all this money for research, potentially never producing an effective vaccine, there, as far as we know, is no assurance that the vaccine that they produce with American taxpayer money will be made available at a reasonable cost.
If a vaccine does come about, how easy would it actually be to distribute it all around the world?
When you start talking about delivering it overseas, when you start talking for the need for a cold chain in which every step of the way the vaccine is below some certain temperature, if that turns out to be necessary, I mean, that is an enormous challenge. And when you think about it on a global scale, developing the vaccine is just the beginning of the problem.
The problem. Dr. Peter L.E.N.R, President of the Centre for Science in the Public Interest. Thanks for him for talking to us a little bit earlier, 10 to the hour. Reminder of the top story. Corruption in Malaysia. The former Prime Minister Najib Razak has been found guilty of corruption. It's the first trial of 3 linked to the multi-billion...
Morning, everybody. Finish this all up. How steep this is. I figured I have to make my own little road up on the side here to come this way. With Casey, dig this out and make a hydropower plant right here. And then continue my way up. That was a pretty steep hill. I like going down it backwards. Excuse me, with no brakes. Morning, Case. Casey. Take that loose stuff, put it there, take that grate out right there where it's like the hip. Come up and go that way. look fun in the morning. What? That's white clay dirt. I can't wait to melt it. Turn it into structure. Finish with this stuff over here. Like a solar garden down in there. The pond this way. And if you don't let us know, we're not gonna reopen. This is gonna be my office. Make the store up here. I'm tired of getting moved. I don't have to move from here unless I want to. So, let's see. Take that path like that. Take it backwards. Use the excavator. Scrape out stuff. Pull the trees out. Put myself up on this loose stuff and scrape it down. Come up sideways. Try to take that such a hard angle out. Put that stuff over there and make it where I can get up it. No fucking way. Where the fuck's that dog? Bruce Wayne. Interesting. I might actually only caught that. The sifter box. The white sulfurized Kelly. Get pottery clay. Go down to the mill site. See a difference between red clay and white clay. And use this for my garden and building. I'm making clay sculptured and cob home type things. Buried that cable, darn it. Hard Rock Candy Mountain. Beautiful crystals. All this beautiful building material. I make my Iroquois stuff. stone houses again. Out of quartz. It's sulfurated. Hydro plant's gonna be right there. Stream down. Solar garden. Food. Pond's gonna be over there. Cut a road down this way. I'm gonna take it in the mountainside that way. There you go. Beautiful day. Bear scat. That'd be fun to watch. Bear swimming. So, up there, the road we're starting to cut. This is the hillside. Finish cutting these trees up. Push that stuff down to where there's not such a hard steep angle. Press it down. Get my excavator out. Part. Grab these guys with the choker chain and lift them over to the side. Process cut. I'm gonna skim. Take some of these guys out. Take this whole section right here and bring it over to this guy. This is going to be the dam, going like such. Boom, all the way around to that side. We're going to dig all this out. Dig all this out and move it this way. Compile it in a ring. Come across like such. Boom. Dig all this out. Have a zip line. Nice tree to jump out of. Rocks and so forth to jump into. That'd be a nice water. My own trench. alongside this hillside right there. To pump over from that hillside over where I got that hold up. Where the other garden side is on the face. This should be all nice. Garden meditation area. And then the islands inside of it. You come through, dig this out, do an island and so forth. To be dip art and so forth, but spots where you don't drown or nothing. So the collectors up in the trees so that you have a part that's heated and not heated. Just like that. Oh. And I can run my trench line, pump water from over there to here, get that power turbo going, get this dug out, get water pumping over to it, make a turbo unit there. We're gonna have one there. 10 kilowatt each. Try to do closed loop system. Perfect. Trench that just like that. Trench that just like that. Pump it over from this hole. Excuse me. That's perfect. I gotta open this up, get in there, but first I gotta use a earthcraft cable, cut through with scissors, wrap it around, walk through and wrap it around, and pull it out and go that way, process it. Bringing water, 2 blocks that way. Water hole, swimming hole, power, food, fire protection. These zip lines into it. Clear it out. Helicopter need to come and get water from it. They can. Fight a fire, you know. That's gonna be a good size. So from there, all the way to over there. water up there. You get to the upper blackberry garden and so forth. Shoot water back down. Hydro plant. Excavate all this stuff out. Take these trees down, use them for building. Widen this road all the way down. And take this dirt from this side. And push all this that way. Lock some in laterally. You know. Push it over to the side and push this clay over the top of it. Pump water onto it. And compact it down. And make a shoulder. Otherwise it's drop off. You know what I'm saying? It's fun parallel parking when you got an edge. You're on a hill. You ain't got no brakes. Or no lights. You learn real quick. Clean all this up. It's gonna look nice. So I can come in with Casey. Hook the chugger. Grab and pick these guys up. Yep. Take care of this big crystal, so pass it to your kids. Pass it to your grandbabies. Almost 100 years old. That first ever backhoe. They just came out with the all-electric one this year. You got ours running on hydrogen and plasma fuel. Drop these trees. Pull this corner out. So I'll be able to come up with a trailer. And these trees will have to come down on the side there. So I'm gonna go up and meet that tank. Take the dirt, take out this such pitch. So Marty was able to pull up that water tank, 300 gallons, about 4,000 pounds. I love you kids. I love you, my lineage. I love you, family. I love you, Earth and family. Keep moving forward. Anything is possible. Getting your sobriety. Making business. Getting your kids in your life. Getting free. Getting healthy. That inner work. I'm up every day early, trying to get as much as I can. The self-work in. You know, you only do so much. So we ask community, what should we do? We stay open, so you have a storefront. I'm so humble. I'm so humble. Being a part of your lives. I'm so tired of having to move. I know if I centralize and build this up, you'll have a place that you can come to, be healed, do events, weddings, all kind of stuff. And we can comply with social distancing. Alright. Imagine coming up and digging for all the different crystals we got in the shop. And for gold, and quartz gold and so forth. Different regions, different chakras, areas set up. Meditations and sound healings and light therapy, food therapy, having deer and stuff around you. to share our homes with you. Thank you, everyone. So, yeah. That way. Cut that guy down. That one on this side. Fill in this crick hole, this drift cut. Throw some logs, those trees in there, and bray it over. Push this way. Yeah. Excavate that out. I'm buried 2,500 gallon. And I gotta dig out a 1,500 gallon hole. 1,500 gallon holes. I need 3,600 gallons. Maybe 60 gallons a minute. This way as such. And then drop down. Use the excavator and take the top of that out. Let's do this road. Take this